is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now.
JLee in the building and every guest that you ever needed. Sports cards after hours keep the hobby heated. Updates, hobby talk like you never seen it. Sports cards live and none could ever beat it.
Sports cards is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now.
Welcome to another episode of Sports Cards Live with your host, JLee.
All right, we are back. I am back in the 2024 Cleveland National Live Podcast Studio. This is such a cool setup they have here for content creators that have been booked into this room to come here, talk national, get excited. And I am super happy because you guys, you watch Sports Cards Live, you watch the various shows I do, you undoubtedly know this man here, my good friend, Adam Gray, the real 27 guy. Adam, how excited are you to be here at the National?
It's our best time of the year. It's our time where we get to see all of our friends. Of course I'm excited, and I had to walk around half the show to try to find you, which is insane because you're like the tallest person here, but finally found you. Happy to be here on this brief show with you, and yeah, dude, I'm excited and happy. How are you doing?
You know, I'm great. It is a tiring week, but I did sleep in today. I walked in here half an hour ago. I ran into you, hoped to, because this worked out so wonderfully to get you in here into the studio with me. And man, the community's been wonderful. The show's been wonderful. And I was on my way to visit Andy Albert from the IndyCard Exchange to see if he wanted to come do it, because I want to get a vendor's perspective. And Andy's one of my favorite vendors in this show, going back many years. You were there. I walked up, I surprised you, I gave you a big bro hug. and then you're leaving early today. You got here yesterday. I'm going to be back in here a little bit later with Andy. I can't wait for that. But Adam, you and I, every third Thursday of the month, we meet. We do what is now the Fanatics Collect Premier Auction live stream. We've been doing that for 3 years. 3 years. And you always say that it's the best day of the month. Is the National the best weekend of the year?
For us collectors, there's no question. I would love to make it to all the shows, but this is the show that I feel like you have to make it to, right? If you can't make it to, like if you're like me and you have a family and you can't commit to be away on weekends and stuff like that, you still have to make time to go to the National if it's at all possible. And so, yeah, I mean, this is the best because you also, you get to see your friends, right? How many people have I run into over the course of the last 36 or 24 hours where I'm like, I haven't seen this person in a year. We were talking about it when we walked up here. We see each other at least every month on the watch party that you were talking about, but to actually see each other in person the last time was when we were here last year. And so you see your friends, right? If I was to give a sales pitch for why people need to go to the National, the cards are great. The memorabilia is amazing. You'll never see everything under one roof the way that you see it here. But the best part of it is the community and the people who you care about and that you have relationships with. And so, that's what I love about the National.
That's been a theme for all the podcasts I've done in this studio so far this week. It's a long show. It's Wednesday through Sunday. You came in yesterday. You took time away from your family. I know that was difficult for you. You got 4 kids. You're a very family-oriented man, which I greatly respect, but you made time to get here because, as you said, it's important to be here. You came here to connect with the community, the hobby, the industry, your friends, your people. What did you come with any specific goals, anything that you really wanted to get done while you were here, or is it more just to network and mingle and touch base with people?
I feel like everybody has their own sort of strategy for what they want to accomplish, and coming with any strategy is a good one. For me, I find myself walking around tables looking at faces of people rather than looking at cards. I'm looking for people more than I'm looking for cards. And then along the way, if I bump into something and want to do a trade or want to buy something, that's great. But for me, it's like I have a list of people. You were on the list of people where I was like, I got to make sure I see my friend Jeremy. Who else do I need to see? But I had that, and then the other thing that I had is I wanted to see if any of my better cards would cross to a certain PSA grade, and so I did that.
How'd that go?
I had 1 of 20 cross. which is kind of amazing that it was that low because I got all of the cards graded myself. None of these cards have ever been crossed before, but one of the 20 did. It was one of the pretty big ones, so I'm really excited about that one. But the thing that is hard, and this is something that you and I should talk about sometime on Sports Cards Live, is when PSA crosses something, people have the sort of understanding that PSA is able to perfectly see the card inside the slab. The fact is they can't. And because they can't, you have a situation where a lot of stuff may actually get the grade that you want to if it was presented raw, but because it's in this big, in my case, big Beckett slab, and it's got that, that Beckett like sleeve thing over it, they can't see it perfectly. And so you sort of do the best you can with this cross, and then later if I wanted to try to get it in a higher grade, which I personally don't care that much about, I really don't, then I could crack it out. But I think that's something that we could talk about because there's some real like economic theory around that's kind of interesting.
Really good point, and I think you're right. Something not everybody does think about. I also took one card over to Nat Turner directly to see if it would cross over. It did not to the minimum grade I wanted, so I just retained the card. It was my precious, I love it, my 1933 Gaudy Babe Ruth number 53, the beautiful yellow background card. I've owned that for about 11 years now, I think. It's in an SGC 5 holder, and I gave it to Nat the other. Nat's such a nice guy. Like he's just such a nice guy, friendly to everybody. I gave him the card. He texted me the next morning, said, swing by. I swung by. He said, you know what? It would cross, it would be a 4. And he had a little sticky with some arrows pointing to kind of what the issues were. And I thought about it, and I just said, I'm going to keep it. And what I did, I'll get into it. I actually started looking at Card Ladder to see what these cards would be worth in each grade, because I didn't even know. I don't follow the value of my cards month to month. My card if it would have crossed to a PSA 4, the comps recent are between like $18,000 and $20,000. This is one of my prized possessions. In the SGC 5 holder that's already in, the comps are between 40 and 50. So it made no sense for me to pay them to cross it over and devalue it by, $20,000 to $30,000. Just doesn't make any sense. I don't have many SGC cards in my collection. It's one of 2 I think I have. But now that I'm going to keep it in his SGC 5 holder, I want to add a Lou Gehrig 1933 Gaudy, and now I am very motivated to add that in an SGC 5, in any SGC holder, not 5. I can't afford that, but any SGC holder. So I like pairing things. Do you like pairing cards together?
I totally do. So what's interesting about this, you're gonna. I wonder what you'll say about this. So my card that crossed, of mine that crossed was a card from a set that I have that was in a BGS 9.5 holder, but there's another card that's with it that sort of pairs with it that's gonna stay in its BGS 9.5 holder. So I did the anti-cross. I took one of them and put it into a PSA holder, and the other one didn't make it. So now it's like, wait a second. Now they're like sort of not, in the same case.
It's a Franken pair.
It's a Franken pair. Yeah, I went the wrong direction. But, you have to sort of look at stuff sometimes, and I don't like thinking about the money part of it, but you have to look sometimes at the money and go, okay, does this make sense from a financial perspective? Does the value increase here? Like you did with your 33 Gaudy card, it made no sense for you. For me, it made sense. So even though I'm going, doing the Franken pair thing, I think it was the right thing to do.
Of course. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, I always like to say we are collecting the cards, not the plastic and labels that they are in. However, that does become part of it because I like uniformity as to the best that I can maintain it, but I'm not willing to, I will still pick a beautiful card in a slab that isn't uniform because I just want that card. And it's something that it takes a bit of almost a leap of faith in your head just to get over to say, you know what, the slab doesn't matter. And because we've been so conditioned recently to be all about the slab. So I encourage people always to collect the card. People say collect the card, not the grade. I take it a bit further to collect the card, not the slab. But I recognize that is not easy to do. I truly understand that. So
one of the things that you and I do when we do the watch party is we ask these would you rather questions. And there will be 2 cards up that are both really amazing cards. and we'll say that we need to, like, we'll say, which one of these two would you rather have, right? And when I ask that question to you, sometimes you really sit there and you hem and haw over it, and it's a lot of fun. One thing that I think would be really fun is to look at two cards and say, or look at a card and say, okay, you have to switch this card to another case. But in so doing, you maybe make the card look less cool because some holders look better, but in the process where the slab looks less cool, it increases in value. Which would you rather do? And that's what you were doing with your 33 Gaudi this time is like, well, at the end of the day, you looked at Card Ladder. You looked at the graph, right? You looked to see how much the card was worth. And that even somebody like you, if you're doing that, then everybody's probably doing that. And I have to admit, I do that too. Even though I don't plan on moving it, I do that too.
It's like you said, when we are dealing with these cards that are beyond our own, we all have our own personal threshold of where a card moves from being an expense item, meaning when the money's gone, we don't care about it anymore, to being, I'm going to use the word, an investment item, where it sits on the balance sheet. It's not on our income. It's on the balance sheet, and we consider it part of our, dare I say, net worth. You know, I always, on Sports Cards Live, I often say if I'm spending what to me is significant money on a card, I think about what I can eventually get out of it for my family. Otherwise, it's coming out of the family funds. So if I'm going to go spend $5,000 on a card, that can't be an expense item for me, because that's $5,000 that can go towards clothing for my kids, summer camp for my kids, food for all of us, a vacation. So that $5,000, I have to consider the ultimate exit on that card, and is it going to... So that's why when I spend significant money, it's 99.5% of the time going to be on an established, like a blue chip card, like a Lou Gehrig or a Babe Ruth or a Mickey Mantle or Wayne Gretzky. You know, I could list the GOATs. I'll stop there for me. And I think an interesting concept in all this is what is significant, not what is significant money, but I think as hobby participants, you need to understand for yourself and understand a bit of about accounting. I mean, we're both CPAs, so we understand balance sheets and income statements and how that all works. Not everybody does, and I think a lot of people eventually can get themselves into some trouble. Let's take breaking for as a case study here. Breaking, by the way, we are sitting here in the Ripping Wax Case Break Pavilion, just on the other side of it, and over there is a humongous screen filled with all the streams coming through Whatnot right now. It's a visual spectacle. That is, have you seen that yet?
I have. It's incredible.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's one of the coolest installations I've ever seen here at the National. When you are involved in breaking, I think most people who have breaking as a significant part of their hobby experience, they know they go into a break thinking that this is going to be fun. This is like going out to the bar with friends, or this is like going to the movies, going to the amusement park. You're going to spend a couple $100. You're going to come back with nothing except the experience and the memories. And I think that what's the best breakers have done is created experience and those memories for the people, because there's a good chance many of those participants are going to spend $200 and come out with something less than a couple $100 worth of items, cards. How do you look at that?
Well, I love what you're saying. It's experiential. It is the exact same thing as going out and having fun with somebody, and that's the way that we need to think about it. Sometimes unfortunately, people stop thinking with their head and they just think with that part of them that's the fun part, right? So whether you're breaking wax or you're buying singles, I've always said you have to be thinking with both your brain and your heart most of the time, unless you're somebody who has the means where it just doesn't matter. But that's almost none of us. Almost none of us have to, or don't have to think about the financial part of it at all. Most of us have to think about it at least somewhat. And if you fall into that category of most of us, then you should have a threshold that's a clear budget that's for the fun. And outside of that, every other purchase you make should be with both your brain and your heart. And what I mean by that is it has to make sense from an investment perspective, and it needs to make sense in your heart. Like, you have to want to own that thing. So people get stuck in this place where they just think with their brain or they just think with their heart. You've got to be thinking with both, I think.
Yeah. It reminds me of a time for me in the hobby, almost, I don't know if this would predate breaking, but I'm thinking back 2003 through about 2009 when I was breaking product at the LCS. Not online group, before online group breaks took off. And I would go into the LCS in Calgary, Alberta, and I would open up some product, and let's say I spent anywhere from $200 to $2,000. Depends on, how big my paycheck was, or, I wasn't married and kids at that time, so I had more discretionary income, more expendable income. But if I opened up $1,000 worth of product and I did not get anything that I felt was valuable or that I cared about for my own personal collection, I would then attempt to find something in the showcase at about the same amount of money, say $1,000 a single, to buy to balance things out, so that I knew that, okay, maybe I quote unquote wasted $1,000. I had an experience, but I still wouldn't feel great about it. Maybe I wasted $1,000, but then I did something smart with another 1,000, and I didn't think about it back then, but I'm thinking about it now. That maybe what I was subconsciously thinking was, well, maybe that 1,000 I spend on an actual valuable piece would go up in value and help me earn back the money I lost by breaking the product.
How did that work out for you?
It probably worked out for me.
I think so too.
I think it probably worked out.
And what that teaches me, and I think this is timeless, and I think you'll agree with me on this. For the most part, the breaking is the fun part. It's not the best investment usually. There's some products that's not true. Some products, in retrospect, opening them was a great decision when they came out, and you should have opened as much as you possibly could. But if you want to be in the hobby long term, and again, you don't have endless amount of funds, you want to last an average of 40 years, which Jeremy and I have between the two of us in the hobby on average, right? Jeremy's got 45, I've got 35. The best thing you can do is figure out what you want to own, really do all the research, love it, enjoy it, and those are the decisions that also in the end often lead to the best financial reward later when you want to turn that card into something else, into another card or something like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's so many approaches. Listen, let's wrap up in a minute. I want to just get your overall feeling for this particular national here in Cleveland. This is a busy show. It is. I remember being at the Cleveland National, oh gosh, I don't know what, 2012, 13, in there, whenever it was back then, walking through the aisles, and you could go up to any table and you could see the showcases. This show,
you can't.
All week long, you walk around, you have to wait for people to move out of your way. We're both tall, so we're lucky. We can peer over people and look down and see if we need to wait for the crowd to clear and get a real front row look. This is an absolutely crazy show in terms of busyness. I've seen some comments out there like, too many people, not enough parking spots. On behalf of the hobby, we'll take it. We will take those criticisms of the show, because all that tells me is that this hobby is flourishing still. Even a couple years after the pandemic slowed down, the hobby, this set of eyes right here, this hobby is healthy. The community is stronger than ever. Oh my gosh, man, I've just been loving this week.
People measure how well it's doing in different ways. They have like different metrics. I think it's as good as it's ever been. I think most of the people who are here, we've lost a lot of those people. You've talked about this. We've lost a lot of those people who were here just for the pandemic boom and got in for quick investment reasons and then got out. Well, who's here now? Like, is this young man walks past our booth that we're in right now? He's got a Zion case with all of his cards in it. Like, we have people who are younger who love the hobby. We have people who are older, and people are just looking to buy cards and trade cards. Dealers are running out of their good stuff, and I think, Jeremy, I think it's as good as it's ever been, and I think the fact this is the other thing. People are generally negative about things like this. This is an impossible event to plan. There's no venue. There's no how do you bring in hundreds of thousands of people who all need to see everything instantly and never have any problems along the way? Like, it's an impossible thing to do. I don't know the organizers. I'm not, like, paid to talk about them. I think they do a great job. I think this is a great show. I think everybody's excited. I think everybody seemed, for the most part, pretty happy. I know the first couple of days people were nervous about parking sort of stuff, but I just don't think those things matter as much as, like, the feel. People want to buy cards. People want to have cards in their collection. Some are more on the investing side, some are more on the collecting side, but I think it's all really good, and I think the show's been great. I wish I had more time personally. You really need, I think, 2 to 3 days to see everything, and I only got a day, and so it's just not enough for me.
Yeah, 2 full days for sure. I find that so after the first day, I was feeling like, oh my gosh, 4 more days of this, and I'm already tired, but every day I'm in here and I'm having a great time. So to anyone who's not here, you're watching this after the National, thanks for watching these episodes, and try, if you can, if it's within your doing, try to come to the National next year in Chicago. The next 3 years are all in Chicago. We have some consistency. It's going to be easier to get to the show, to get to the restaurants, the hotels. This has been, it's a bit more challenging, but you know what? At the end of the day, I'm not going to complain at all about this experience. It's been awesome. It's been great. Look at this. People are walking by. Everyone's having Mr. Samuel Evans standing right there. This guy's killing it this week. We're having such a good time here, guys. Adam, thank you for taking time, your precious time, out of your short time here at the National to chat with me here. So glad we got to do this, buddy.
Anything to hang out with you for a couple minutes, brother.
Right on, man.